So if you want to get on that scale, what is the thing you need to do to get on that scale?
Assalamu alaikum. When we look at great people, they also had 24 hours a day. They also had 7 days a week. So regarding time, they had similar quantity of time. But what is unique about some people is they touch on some topics that are relevant to people after their generation. You know, if, for example, you're going to be a great architect, then your name will probably only live as long as your building and your architecture. Once that is out of fashion, it's gone. If yours is to sing a song, when people have changed tastes, then that's the end of that one. But so long as human beings would want to be more human, more humane, so long as human society would require people who will stand for justice, show compassion, tell truth, so long as human beings would want guidance in how to be better, how to fulfill their purpose in life, how to be happier by serving. What people find is happiness is a byproduct of service. So long as that's the area you are interested in, if you have a significant impact to make, subsequent generations will find what you have to say really relevant. And so today, we still read about Plato and Aristotle. These were people before Jesus, peace be upon him. We still read about some of the things Musa alayhi salam taught. We still read about things from Rama and Krishna. We still read about Buddha and Confucius. Who are these people? Wallahu alam who they really were. But the fact that Allah said He has sent to every community prophets. In fact, in one hadith it says Allah has sent to humanity 124,000 prophets. In another one it says 224,000 prophets. And so you find the kind of ethics that these people taught becoming relevant to communities thousands of years later. So what seems to be the biggest legacy humanity has been able to leave behind seems to be in the area of teaching people how to be more fulfilled human beings, which is what scholars in every area have tried to do. And I will not be surprised if on the day of judgment, some of these people like Buddha and Rama and Krishna, you actually come to find they were also prophets of God that He sent to various communities. But their people over time changed some of their teachings, but what seemed to have survived is love for others as you love for yourself, stand for justice, be courageous in telling the truth. You know, those qualities that every community considers the most important for our humanity.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Probably, since you went to knowledge, I would like to go to Prof. Tahir. In the first 10 list of the people Michael Hart mentioned, from the Prophet ﷺ to Albert Einstein, to Isaac Newton, to Confucius, to Buddha, to Kowloon, Johann Gutenberg, one thing that we find common in them is knowledge. There were people that acquired knowledge, they shared the knowledge, and they practiced the knowledge. What is the relevance between knowledge and impact, positive impact in life?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Thank you very much, moderator, for the question. Knowledge is key, and knowledge is power. And knowledge without impact is just because the knowledge doesn't have a blessing of Allah. And for a knowledge not to have blessing is because there is no adab or manners. Because when the topic of knowledge is discussed, we understand that the most knowledgeable person in the history of humanity, in the history of the world, since Adam, until end of time. I don't know if we know who is that person. Shaitan. The title Shaitan is a title. That is not the name of himself. The name is Iblis, and he has been the head of the jinn. But because of the knowledge Allah has given him, Allah gave him the title Shaitan, and therefore he was raised up to even live with the malaika or the angels. So if you're talking about knowledge, the knowledgeable person is Shaitan. You can never beat him in knowledge. But one thing that made him who he is today, that whenever time we pray, we curse him, and we shall curse him until the end of time. And Allah himself, he says in the Quran that he is an enemy, and therefore take him as an enemy. Why? With all the knowledge. It's just because the knowledge he has, he lacks one thing, and that is manners. So when you have knowledge without manners, you become a devil. But when you have knowledge and you have manners, therefore people will have a feel of the impact of your knowledge. And when you have knowledge and you know the truth and you refuse to know the truth, then that becomes arrogance. That is kibriya. So when you see one thing common amongst them is all of them are knowledgeable. Anyone who is an arrogant person, he is knowledgeable. Anyone who we call a devil is knowledgeable. But one thing which is key that differentiates between them is manners, and also knowing the truth and impacting or trying to teach the truth. But when you know the truth and you don't have manners, you become a devil. You know the truth, you have the knowledge, and you refuse to know, then you become an arrogant person. And arrogance is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not condone. If you look at the example that I have learned actually from my sheikh yesterday when we were having discussion, when you give the example of humility, which is the opposite of arrogance, is the example of the Chinese proverb that look at the relationship between the sea and the rivers and the mountain. You realize that the rivers all will have to flow to the mountain. Sorry, will have to flow to the sea. But the sea is huge. The sea may not need the water, but why are they all moving to the sea? Because the sea is so humble, and therefore it places itself very low. So all those that are high will come to it. But the mountains are huge and they are arrogant. If you throw a stone to the mountain, it will never take anything. It will leave it, it will roll down, and it will come down. And who is down there to take it? The ocean, because it's very humble. And that is the similitude of arrogance and humility, and therefore knowledge is actually what binds them together. Allah alam.
Thank you very much, sir. From what you've said, humility, good manners, with knowledge, you make positive impact. Thank you very much. Ajia and Nana Fatima, my question to you is, there is this ethical theory called altruism, doing things for the sake of other people. And Denzel Washington once said, the most selfish thing to ever do in life is to help others, because the gratification you get from it, you don't get from anything else. Is there a connection between helping others and having positive impact?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for the question. Helping others should be priceless for all Muslims. You help others, you get the reward of Allah without any expectation from helping others. And we need to do it selflessly by engaging in our community, by offering our services whenever is needed. We should not be expecting any reward from anyone. Once you attach expectations to your kindness, your generosity, or your help, it leads you down a very slippery slope, because your expectations may not be met. And once that expectation is not met, then Shaitan comes in. Shaitan will start influencing you, and you would start behaving in a way which is very un-Islamic. And me personally, I don't attach expectations to anything I do for anybody. I do everything I do solely for the sake of Allah. And we should all do the same. But it's rather unfortunate we find ourselves in this world with social media and all the external influences that the lines tend to get blurred, where it is for Allah or I want to be rewarded. And it's always good for us to remind ourselves, why are we here? What are we doing here? Everything should be for the sake of Allah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajia Fatima. Let me come back to Ajia Ukoya. Community service. For example, the Gaia's hypothesis is about the self revolving around itself. So if you damage plants, you get the consequence. If you damage animals, we know we cannot survive without bees now. How important is community service to living positive impact in life? Serving the community.
Thank you. Salam alaikum once again. Yes, so community service has a impact on everyone, be they Muslims or Christians. It has a positive impact on them. For instance, if you go out there to do something for the sake of Allah, by the time you realize you are doing all the positive things that you should do, because you don't expect anyone to praise you. But before you even set out to do it, you should know that it's not everyone that will agree with you. You should condition your mind that, look, all I want to do is to please Allah. And so you'll be chastised, you start, because it may be something that everybody thinks is not even possible to do. But then, once you have set up your mind to serve Allah, you will definitely find out the things that need to be corrected. For instance, you see something in your way that needs to be cleared because you begin to think of the negative impact it's going to have on someone. You see someone suffering in a way, you would want to get closer to the person to find out what's eating you up. And you know for sure that this person may even tell you off. But because of your, that greater part of you that wants Allah to do something just to get close, that's how I put it. Because all you would want to do is to remove that barrier of, sin between you and Allah. And so always you want to reach uplifted, get close to her. You want to would make your prayers. That's how I usually put it, because it's like I'm giving to Allah so that whatever I need from Allah, He gives me, so that on judgment, Allah will have mercy on me. When you have that at the back of your mind, you go and do it without expecting. You don't even remember it. Somebody will remind you that, do you remember you did ABC? But once you do it and you keep reminding the person, or you keep reminding everyone that, remember, I did ABC, then it defeats. So community service is when you want everyone to be happy, when you want things to be done right. You may not be able to do it alone, but for as long as you do it selflessly and without getting tired, you are going to surely get others to follow. So that's what I call community service, where you reach out, you have that eye that can identify those who are in need but cannot even voice it out to you because they are either shy or they don't know who to go to. So that's how community service is.
Okay, thank you very much, Ajia. So I think the major thing Ajia mentioned is serve the community, not just for personal gratification, but for the sake of Allah, and nobody will piss you off at a point you will now say, I'm no longer doing. Sheikh Nudin Lemu, you work with a lot of organizations and you also earn a lot. What is the nexus between community service and volunteerism? Nexus between community service and volunteerism.
What makes a community or society is similar to the difference between bacteria, one cell, and a multicellular organism. So one cell, there's a limit to what a cell can do. But once you look at a multicellular organism like us, your cells now specialize. Some cells go to your feet and legs, some cells go to eyes, some cells go to ears, cells go and do different things. And so the impact that a human being can have, or any multicellular organism, compared to a unicellular organism, under normal circumstances, you can't compare. The moment you can work with a group, you become more impactful. If that group is not just a fluid group, no, it's a solid group, like a government or an organization or an institution, then it is able to bring the strengths of others and create synergy. And then you are able to do something far more. So it's just like looking at a broom. What each strand of the broom can do. If you want to sweep a place, and you've got about a broom that has 100 strands, what one move of that broom will do, if you just get one strand, you'll do 1,000 moves and you have still not done what one move will do. So if you can volunteer to support an existing organization, you improve its impact. But at the same time, you improve your impact. What organizations allow us to do is to live multiple lives. You are able to make decisions that can be implemented from the point of view of Allah, you who brought the idea, and the person who implemented it, you all have the same reward. Without the others, it would not have been even implemented. It couldn't have been done. So what organizations allow us to do is to structure sadaqah in such a way that it becomes jariyah. Instead of I just did something one and it's gone, I am part of building an organization that is able to continue to survive even after I'm dead. So institutions allow us to be in our graves and you are still getting reward. It may be a good business you established. It has created jobs that has given people ability to send their children to school. You have a reward for having done that even when you are dead. So if somebody says, can you volunteer to do anything? You don't just help the other. You help yourself even in the spiritual sense. So when you work with an organization and you contributed and you leave that organization, but what you have left behind continues to be used, it's an improvement that has given the organization added life. You yourself are a beneficiary. On the issue of volunteerism, I would like to encourage, if you are in school, please look at where you are going to volunteer. Look for something you are passionate about and spend some time there. Don't say, when I've finished studies, then I will start looking for work experience. Get that work experience during your holidays, during your spare time. Because what that does is it helps you grow. When you start working, and I'll say this in just two ways, work to learn, not to earn. Work to learn, not to earn. If you work to learn, you get better and better and everybody wants you to stay. If you are only working to earn, it's just for the money. People will get tired of you and your complaint about money. The second thing, work more than you are paid, and you will eventually be paid more than you work. Yes. The people who get promoted are those who are working harder. Anytime you want somebody to do things, you look for who's the busy one, who's the active one. And so volunteerism and the nexus between that and organizations, it allows you to get into an organization, not through being interviewed for a job, but let them see your work in action. And by the time you've been there for about 6 months, before a year, they would actually, if you are really good, if you're growing in that area and you're passionate about it, they would want to keep you. So it's good for all. Allahu Alam.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. One thing, in one of the books I've studied, a particular author wrote a letter to, and this is for Professor Nail, wrote a letter to the owner, the employers, and mentioned so person in the management that he wants to come and learn from those two people, and slotted in his letter $100, that this is his tuition fee to come and learn from you guys, because they were the best in the industry. And later on, why did you put money? He explained to them, and it served them for like 2-3 months, like Sheikh mentioned, and he was employed. And this was somebody that has had problems with employment prior. What are the personal benefits to volunteerism, Prof?
Thank you very much. So, some of the personal, you're asking about personal advantages, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, when we volunteer. I mean, when we volunteer, the very first thing that comes with it is you yourself will learn, all right? You learn from others. And learning is, is a lifelong experience, like we say. We learn or seek knowledge, learn from cradle to grave. Now, another thing that comes with volunteer, when you volunteer to do something, and of course, as a Muslim, if you do it for Allah's sake, the reward will follow. And at all times, we are reminded in a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that at any point in time you assist someone, right? If you have a brother and you move, this is a hadith, by the way, if you have a brother and you move the brother just in a way to assist him, fi umuri dunyahu, even if it's about the lives, activities in this dunya, that you are assisting the brother, according to one hadith, it says the reward is much more than you do i'tikaf in the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That is, if you actually helping, volunteer to assist your own brother in about something that is disturbing him. Someone can be in i'tikaf, you want to read some Quran, you want to do this, but you hear there's a brother here who has a challenge, and then you work with him to assist him. Now that is at the micro level, when you assist one person. Now what if you volunteer in a society that has a vision? And like my colleague said, when you look at the vision, don't just volunteer anywhere. Before you volunteer, you see what are their objectives. And if the objective is nothing but to champion the cause of Allah, and you involve yourself in it, you get the reward. Even if you are involving yourself, but you are not the one who is actually at the end, at the forefront of getting the rewards, getting the results. What you have done in even searching or asking others to do, you also get the rewards when they do the good deeds. Just like it says, "Addalu ala al-khayri kafa'ilih." Whoever has lured to a particular good thing, you get the reward similar to the one who has actually done the good deed. And this all together come into volunteerism, when you volunteer, right, as a Muslim, as a person. But another thing I will want to add, especially when it comes to volunteer, is that if you do and you come back and talk about it, you're not careful, all your rewards will go just like that. We have instances where people will come to help you in one way or the other. The moment they finish, they follow it up with backbiting, follow it up with all sort of negativities. And doing that basically is going to negate all your activities, all your rewards and everything. So we have to remember doing it for Allah's sake is key. And second thing is doing it in a way to learn for yourself so that you can get the rewards. And the third is doing it and not coming back to backbite or coming back to talk about it. It's as if you're expecting some rewards, but that is not the objective of volunteerism. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you very much, Prof. Ajia Nana Fatima, from what I've heard from the two discussants, it seems volunteerism is a stepping stone to something great. And for you to be here today, to be suggested to be on this panel, you must have volunteered for a lot of things, and now you are in a leadership role. What is the nexus between volunteerism and being given opportunity to take a leadership role?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Once again, thank you for that question. That's a great question. In actual fact, volunteerism got me to my leadership role. I just don't want to get into the details, but when you volunteer just for the sake of Allah and you do it wholeheartedly, openly, others are seeing you. And when an opportunity becomes available, you are the first person they will reach out to you. I volunteered wholeheartedly. I was more than 100% committed to the cause. I was not expecting anything in return, but due to for my good work and my consistency. Another thing is, when you are volunteering, you have to be consistent. You just not do it for the sake of doing it this one time to be noticed. It has to be consistent. You don't know when that opportunity would come, but that opportunity comes from Allah, and you have to be patient. But you have to open yourself to do it wholeheartedly. And when you volunteer, you are helping others, and I gain immense satisfaction inwardly from seeing the sacrifices that I made for others. And I think that is what Muslims are meant to do. So let's continue doing that. And as Sheikh said, we should not be doing it, then posting it for somebody to see that I've done this for this person. You negate it. You do it between you and Allah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam tullah. Ajia Okoya, you work with Anisa Foundation, and probably you are one of the top guys in the foundation. You must have volunteered at a smaller scale. How did that help you to now working at the top of Anisa Foundation? What is the nexus between serving in the smaller scale and now going to up there?
Thank you very much for that question. The question of how it helped me to be at the within Anisa, I was being myself. I am the type that will say it as it is, regardless of who you are and the effect it's going to have on me. So even as I was just an ordinary member, I was always the first. I think we have some of our members here. I was always the first to point out to our leader that there was something that was being done that shouldn't be done that way. And this is something that I think most of us are lacking these days. Because when we want to even say something to someone one-on-one, we are thinking of how the person is going to take it. But once you know that this thing I'm going to say is for the sake of Allah, and that is just how it is, I don't believe in saying things behind someone for the person to hear. I'll say it to you first, and I'll tell you that I'm saying it to you so that when you hear it outside, you know that you will tell them that indeed I told you. So the leadership felt I was being so critical of them because I felt that once there was a date set aside for a particular project or a meeting, that should be our priority. And so if I got there and the leaders were not there, I was the first person to criticize, to call them and say, look, you as the president should be here at this time. So I was actually elected in absentia. I wasn't around the day that we were going to have another election, but then I felt, the leadership felt that, well, if you are criticizing us so much, then come and take it and let's see how it goes. And that has helped anyway. So maybe my being forward person, like saying it as it is what got me to where I am. And I saw it as a challenge. So that alone pushed me not to ever give up. There were times when I wept. You know, times when things were not going right and you had to weep in your room because you see that it's a passion. You have said something, you've put something in front of you that, look, because every year you put up your program for the year on your calendar and by this date, you should have done it. Then here it is, it's not going the way you are. You cry out to your members, you cry out to your Allah, and of course, you know that managing human institution is not a small thing. I mean, we all come from different walks of life and we don't see things the same way. Also, if you want to pay attention to criticisms and things people are coming to tell you, name giving, you wouldn't move anywhere. So that has hardened me as a leader of a women's group to be someone who would rather be happy to hear that I'm being criticized. I always thought that I'm not even happy when you don't criticize me because I know that it's difficult to do some of these things. So when you are criticized, you take it in good faith. And another way you can become a good leader is to actually ask people who you know can say it as it is for their opinion. Maybe when you hear it, you may think that, oh, it's okay, I was just doing it because of that. Find out from people who are honest or people who are not even part of the group that don't even let it look like it is you. Give them a scenario. And from the response they give you, you would know whether that criticism is an honest one or it's just because people don't want to do what they have to do. That's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. I think from what she said, one of the things I was able to pick is for you to be disciplined. And when you are disciplined, it can even be with time. You get to your meetings on time and you demand explanations why people are late. And with that, they see you as someone special. Because in an unremarkable world, we need to do things that will make us remarkable. And on the basis of that, I come to Sheikh Nuruddin Lemu. Excellence is what a lot of people want. And like Julie Lycott Ames said in her book, How to Become an Adult, that an adult is someone who is able to fend for themselves. And you can't fend for yourself without being skillful. So what is the relationship between skill and, like in your speech you said, when preparedness meets an opportunity, they call it luck. What is the nexus between being skillful and good and being the best in what you do and leadership opportunities in the community?
I think it is recognizing that the qualities of a leader have to recognize that you are not everything, you can't do everything, and there are certain times when you have to allow others to do what you cannot do. To realize that while they may recognize you as the leader, your imperfections will bring things down if you do not know them and get people who can patch up. So you need complementary leadership. You need people who can patch up on your weaknesses. And for that to work, you need to recognize that you have to develop Sahaba around you. You have to develop leadership around you. You should not be the kind of leader who, when you leave, everybody misses you. And everything collapses because you are not around. Some leaders are like mango trees. A mango tree Have you ever seen bush growing under a mango tree? No. If you go into a thick forest, what do you find growing at the bottom? Nothing, just vines. Because the big trees block light from coming down, so nothing really grows around these. The leader should deliberately delegate. Everybody considers you responsible, but you have to find a way of not being the only one every time who speaks on behalf of the organization, thinks on behalf of the organization, everything on behalf of the organization. You have to create space for the light of experience to hit the younger ones so they can grow. Because one day, just as happens in the forest, the big tree will fall. It's not when it falls that you want just anything growing. So one of those qualities, I think, when it comes to excellence of leadership is the succession planning. That you don't become like a canopy, that everybody sees you, you pack the light, you are everything. Some of the most significant companies in the world today, you know, the biggest car company, Toyota, who is the head of Toyota? We don't know. What's the name of the CEO of this company or that company? The CEO will come, they will go. The next will come and go. Who's the Prime Minister of Australia? Don't know. Actually, Australia has had the largest turnover of presidents compared to nearly any other country, but it has the most stable government and most stable economy. And so what you find is, while if you're a politician, you will say, look, I want to stay for as long as possible. But some of the best leaders are those who, while they are alive, they have already groomed their succession. They deliberately step aside and others see. So they're not waiting, when I die, what's my legacy? They don't throw a stone behind them to see where it will land. No, they are alive and they throw it in front and they see it landed well, good. And so I think one of those most important qualities for a leader is to develop leadership of people around you so that they carry things while you can see. If there's any mistake, you know, when you are dead, you can't really do many changes or adjustments. So I think the pathway is just try. People will make mistakes, but you keep trying. It's just that tinkering, like riding a bicycle. You fall when you stop pedaling. If you're on a canoe, the water will take you where it wants to go if you stop rowing. So you just continue your own rowing, you continue cycling, and if Allah blesses it, you will see the results. But definitely not to be the kind of leader where when you die, everybody is crying because you left a vacuum and no succession. If there is no succession, there's no success. Allahu Alam.
If there's no succession, there's no success. Picking from what you said, Sheikh, Prof, let's, as the leadership role that you are now, what are the qualities you would like to see in someone for you to want that person to succeed you? Since Sheikh already mentioned succession plan, and he has spoken about what the leader should do, that you need a successor. They say without a good successor, you are not a success. Now in the position of a leader, looking at people under you, what are the qualities you would like to see in them for you to say, this one is worthy of succeeding me, this one is not worthy of succeeding me? What are those attributes?
Thank you very much. I think we normally... Yes, I think when it comes to leadership, all right, there is this thing we normally say, if you're a leader and someone asks you that, assuming you are not there today, do you think someone can take over? Normally, I remember when we come to, the human resource department, when we do interviews, and for leadership positions, this is a question normally we ask. You are a manager. You have been a manager for 5 years. So now that you are coming to this institution as a leader, assuming you are not there in your office today, do you think there is someone who can take over from you? And this is where you hear someone saying, as for me, when I'm not there, they can't do anything. I'm so important. You know, when you say this, when you make these kind of assertions, it tells us that you are not the type who is a good leader. A good leader at any point in time should be able to tell, if I should not be there today, there is someone else who can take over for me. A real leader should be someone who can tell, I have taught A, B, and C. So even if I'm not there today, they should be able to take over for me. And one of the qualities to know who can succeed you is to look at followership. We normally say to be a good leader, every good leader was once a great follower. Or every great follower can become a very good leader. So you realize, even as parents, if you have, let's say, a firm or a company, you have a number of children, you will want to pick one of them to succeed you in taking care of the organization. Who do you go for? Obviously, you go for the one who has a great followership. And great followership is a philosophy. It comes with so many things. And one of them is the willingness to learn. If you have willingness to learn, willingness to take risk, and willingness to be corrected, all right? There are people, you know, when it comes to personality studies, in personality studies, you have different theories. I don't want to go academic. I have to be careful, all right, not to go to the classroom. We were talking to audience. To summarize it in terms of personality, you realize that there is something we call agreeableness, the tendency that you can put down your view and agree and accept others' views is one of the key followership concepts or principles that we want. You should be able to say, I have my view and you have your view. But in this instance, I think your view is better. I have to follow you. Any leader who has this ability, or any person who has this capability, is one of the qualities that shows that he can be a good leader. You don't want a leader who thinks what he says is final. You don't want a leader who is a Machiavellian. What is Machiavellianism? Machiavellianism in philosophy, or what we call in personality studies. Machiavellians, in terms of leadership, they cause chaos in any organization. One of the principles of Machiavellians is that if he becomes a leader, he is looking at people to fear him instead of loving him. And therefore they say it's better to be feared than to be loved. It's better to be feared than to be loved. Another one says it's better, they say that I have to ensure. It's not enough that I ensure that I win, but I have to also ensure that my enemies lose. This is a very serious statement. Another one, they say win at all costs. If you have a follower who have these mindsets, it tells you he is not ready for leadership position. And therefore, who then is ready? You look for the one with opposite of all these things I have said. It's enough that I win, but if someone else win, I can learn from it. I can win at all costs, but the cost should not be costly. And you can also look at, is it better to be feared than to be loved? Why should you be feared? Why should you be feared? And why should you also be loved by all? You can never be loved by all as a person. We were told by the scholars that رضا الناس غاية لا تدرك ورضا الله غاية لا تترك فادرك ما لا تترك واترك ما لا تدرك. It says to get the acceptance of the entire human beings is not an achievable objective. But also to get the acceptance of Allah is not an objective or a vision that should be left out. So leave what you cannot attain and attain what should not be left out. And that is some of the qualities that you look into a followership. So to paraphrase everything I have said, is that a great follower is someone who can be a good leader. And every great leader was once a great follower. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. A lot of beautiful stuff from there. The willingness to be corrected, it's something, I had to write it down, that if you want to take up leadership in the future, you mentioned you must be willing to learn. And you must show that alacrity, that enthusiasm, that you are actually willing to learn at all times. And the leaders will be comfortable around you, most especially if you also take corrections. Thank you very much. Let me come back to Ajia Okoya. Ma'am, currently, because of time, experts have said some things about climate change. Africa contributes to the destruction of our climate by less than 5%. But out of the 20 countries that will be worst hit in terms of climate change, only 4 are not Africa. So out of the 20, only 4 are not Africa countries. The remaining 16 are from Africa. So what are the opportunities foundations, non-profits, individuals should be looking at in supporting the community, in supporting the society? Where are those places that there are problems that people can volunteer, people can join organizations to try and make attempt at solving those problems? In the society, like the one I mentioned now, climate change is a problem. Children out of school is a problem. Having high number of divorces is a problem. What are those kind of problems that people can go at in their contribution to the community that they can make attempts to solve?
Thank you very much for that question. Some of you look at how to curtail some of these problems. At a certain level, it may be too late for you to correct anything. When we look back at our communities, there are some category of people you cannot go speaking about how to change these things with. So what we do is that we catch them young. Usually it's good to visit them in the schools, our students, and from that level, they absorb very fast, they learn very fast, and we do mentoring program by reaching out to the schools and educating our own children on how to learn to be self-sufficient, how to learn to do the right thing, and for instance, not to always be looking out to be given. So for instance, when we visit a school and you go there, the next time you realize that they've changed the way they do things, the students. They now learn how to even contribute and give back to the school. And I have a typical example of one of the Islamic secondary schools where we visited, and the students themselves were able to buy some things that I wouldn't want to mention for the school. And so that's how we try to impact on our own to bring that positive. And at the community level you meet the children and then you talk to them on how to do things right. So don't do things this way. This is how you are supposed to do it, because it's the same young ones who are going to grow up to become our mothers and fathers. But those at our level, the mothers and fathers, is a bit quite difficult for us to go out there and teach them how to do things right. Much as we want to impart knowledge on our people and to change certain things, you have to look at the level at which you can make that change. You are not looking at today, maybe a few years to come. Some of those we started with have finished university and they are working, and so they are going to do things differently because we are monitoring. We don't only visit once, we visit like once every year. We go to them and we also monitor to see how far they have come. We also do a bit of counseling when it comes to marital issues, and all these things. Actually, when you get them young at the secondary school level, it solves a lot of these problems. then they know how to. Of course, marriage is a spiritual thing, but you also have to know the kind of choices to make to get it right. It doesn't mean that maybe when you think you've made the right choice, it's going to be all rosy. But then we teach them what to do, tell them, because when you go to the secondary school levels, a lot of things are happening that, they are very ignorant about. And then what we do is that when we go, we even take questions that are not, because if you want to face them to ask the questions directly, there are some things that they won't be able to discuss with you. We do sexual health education, and we use our own. We have professionals in our midst, so they are the ones that we use. So mainly, actually, we concentrate on catching them young, the teenagers and the young. That's how we think that we are going to make a change, because they are the future of the country.
I think majorly, Adia has just spoken about orientation and mentorship, and that's one thing our organization does. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think from what she has said, they are into education and they try to educate people, mentorship, supervision, etc. Okay, Adia and Nana Fatima, we have sustainable development goals. Fight against corruption, fight against poverty, fight to uplift education, climate change, etc. What part of this do you think people should be more attracted to contribute their own quota to the betterment of the society?
Thank you very much for that, Jen. I'll use what I do as an example. I work at the Ministry of Education. I'm running a project where we are reintegrating out-of-school children back into school. Education has so many interventions, and those who have dropped out of school or who have never been to school are left out of the loop. So currently, we are integrating 70,000 out-of-school children back into school. And how did we get the 70,000? We got them from the regions with the highest prevalence of out-of-school children, which is in the northern part of Ghana. And then also, we decided to tackle the issue of the street children in Accra and Kumasi. Those children who do not go to school in the northern region, they migrate south. They come to Accra and Kumasi. I did a community sensitization in Kumasi Market, and about 95% of the Kayes all don't speak any language but Dagbani. And they left the north and they came to Kumasi. And I'm sure those who think Kumasi is not working for them will migrate down to Accra. Yes, climate change is a big issue, but we have to look at country specific. The street children in Accra and Kumasi, and I'm sure most of us have seen them. Some are immigrants from surrounding countries who come to beg for alms, but we also have our own children there. They find it very easy to make 10, 20 cedis a day, and they think that is enough. But they are not going to be young forever. They will get older. And when they get older, they cannot be on the streets. Then what becomes of them? They become armed robbers. So the issue of street children, out-of-school children, is an issue that should concern all of us. When I go to the northern region to do my community sensitization, I go to the communities and I engage the elders, the imams. I engage one imam, and he told me, what is the value of education? Why should he take his children out of the farm and put them into classrooms, and then they will finish school and they wouldn't have jobs? I said, you have a valid point. Yes, we don't have jobs for everybody, but we need to create entrepreneurs. I said, what if you take him out of the farm and you put him to school, he graduates, and he becomes an educated farmer where he can get loans and grants to do large-scale farming. Farming is the future. He got my point, and he agreed, and he said he will relay the message to his community. So that is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love that. And most times we try to take people off what they are doing, but there is a way we can tweak it, like Sheikh Nudin Lemu also mentioned. Mention a profession that you can become a millionaire in. So as a farmer, you can become even a billionaire because the population of the world keeps increasing and we all need food. Sheikh, because of time, you are involved in an NGO at a directorial level that you do trainings, you teach people all the time. Why is that important?
I think we realize that one big difference between one country and another is the quality of the human resource, not the natural resource. If you look at a country like Singapore, no natural resource. The only natural resource there is the human beings. And so, just as our sister focuses, and I think we all in different capacities are in that education sector, I think we realize just with our children, if you can build their capacities better, they have a greater chance of surviving. If a country is only going to have wealth, no human capacity, then you will depend on other countries who will come and exploit your own natural resources. In fact, some other countries would employ your own people to work with them. So you'll just educate people for other countries to harvest. So we have to understand some people would leave the country for various reasons, but we need to build enough so that those who are left behind can still give us a better future for our children and for those who will still stay behind. And so on the question of capacity building in various areas, I think that is not going to stop. We will just have better teaching methods. We will just have ways of making education more interesting. But the question of option, you know, if you stop learning as we move into a knowledge age, you're going to get poorer and poorer in every sense. If you see a community that you say is very poor, what do you notice about that community? They're not very educated. This issue of iqra, of read, being one of those things that lifts a community, I think we've seen it in families. Just think of your own family, okay? Think of your father, your grandfather. Within the family, who didn't go to school? Where are they today? And where are the children of those that didn't go to school? So while there are many other factors, I think we realize that as an ummah and as a community and as individuals, if we do not focus on building capacities, we will get resources, but we can't even use them. So if you think of the cocoa produced just between Sierra Leone and Ghana, probably about 60% of the cocoa is produced here. But who makes the chocolate? Who makes the best chocolate? It's Switzerland and other places that can't even grow cocoa. You know, they can't, the cocoa will refuse to grow there. So the question is, who has the capability? When you look at coffee, whether it's whichever part of the world, Ethiopian coffee, Cameroonian coffee, Colombian coffee, wherever the coffee is produced, how much of, when you buy a tin of Nescafe